You know that feeling when you've done like 15 videos worth of stuff with the camera and you just haven't had time to edit it, and you pull the card out so that you can finally edit the videos and the SD card goes bad? Like, that's happened. I couldn't transfer anything off. It's just shot. I can't do any raw reading off the card or anything else. It's just gone. So there's a lot of weird projects that I've been doing that there's just no proof of. One of the things that we did was we rescaped the tank back here. And I did that because a lot of the wood had been put in here early on just waiting for it to sink. It sank and we just left it where it was because it was inconvenient to get in and out of this thing. And it ended up being that about the only thing going on in this tank was a whole bunch of hornwort just taking over everything until the Severans decided that the hornwort was delicious and started stripping it away, and then it just started looking a little weird. So what I've done is I've pulled out almost all of the hornwort and I planted a whole bunch of bough in the back. Now I added a couple new lights, so there should be enough light to get going. I grabbed some of the crap Chinese weed here and threw it between some of the logs. I think it looks pretty cool. I know that's not Amazonian, but I'm not sure I really care that much for plants, because Amazon plants they're a pain because the soil in the Amazon is stupid and useless. So they're a little bit weird, they're a little bit hard to find enough to make an interesting tank out of. So I gave up on that. I've been rescaping for that, and today I'm going to be trying to find something to do with all of this excess hornwort. Now, one of the things that pulling this out has done is it's really opened up the area over here. Let me readjust the camera to show you, because previously when I've done videos, the log that's back here hasn't been visible at all. It's finally actually open. I spent a few days in here just pulling everything out and rearranging it. So hopefully I can avoid giving anybody motion sickness with this. I can't really show this well with the tripod, but you can see there's a whole lot more depth here now that that hornwort has been pulled out. So what I'm going to be working on is trying to figure out places that I can fasten the hornwort in, where it'll, you know, come around some of the branches here, fill in some of the empty space here where there's not necessarily enough lighting for the new valve back here to really grow in well, and hopefully leave this front area a little bit more open. I don't know what I want to do down here, if I just want to leave it like muddy leaf littery area, or I'm thinking maybe about just throwing in a whole bunch of Java moss so that it's kind of like a little grassy patch. Let me know what you guys think would look best, because I would definitely appreciate a couple extra votes on that. But I'm going to be working on getting some of this hornwort bunch back here to where it'll be fastened. It won't just take over the tank again like this stuff here has. And hopefully that'll kind of fill it in a little bit while leaving the area with this more open view. It's kind of hard to get a good idea of the depth here, but there is, you know, a good 7 feet to that back corner there. To this stump here is probably a good 3 feet back. It just really, it's hard to see with a 2D camera here. But, yeah, I don't know, we're going to be playing with that. So, let's get started. Now, I don't want to be using anything that's going to be heavy enough or rough enough to cause damage to the plant, so I'm just going to be using a piece of waterlogged wood that I pulled out of the bottom of the tank. This is about the distance that I want this to go on. Now, conveniently, my Severans have decided that some of this stuff makes good snacks. So, a whole lot of this hornwort is just bare, and it's basically just thread. So, what I need to do with this pile of stuff is get some pieces free to where I have some of the threaded ends, and I'm just going to very loosely wrap the stick. Now you want to make sure you don't end up with any sharp bends anywhere, because this stuff does break if you kink it. So you want very smooth flowing bends, and you want to make sure that your pieces aren't going to be heavy enough to break when you lift them up. You just need something that's going to be a little tiny bit heavy, because this stuff is barely buoyant. It takes very little weight to pull it down. I don't want it pulled down real far. I want a good amount of it at the surface, creating some shade around that stump. Some of this is a bit useless, so I'm just going to be breaking the end off and going the other direction.
The bones of your enemies. They'll sing.
Alright, I'm leaving that in out of context. I have a strange marriage. Or an exciting one, I guess, depending on how you look at it. I'm gonna leave that tiny piece to maybe grow, I don't know. We'll see what it does. This is a good piece, but it doesn't really have anything to tie in. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to kind of braid it into this existing one, and I'm going to let the bits of the plant keep it tangled enough that it won't go anywhere. And again, when you do this, you don't want to do any tight kinks. You just want to do loose wraps, and it holds well enough that it'll hold together. Just think of it kind of like making a Christmas wreath. Okay, so I'm going to call this good. Go ahead and set this in the tank and then switch up there for when I start sinking it. You can see I've got a similar method where I tied together a raft to float up here next to it. This is working pretty well to keep these from just wandering off and filling the tank up again. Long term, the growth is still going to break off, it's still going to wander away, I'm still going to have to clean up little bits and pieces of it, but it does a pretty good job of giving a nice fluffy bushy look without it actually being too terribly troublesome. So I'm pretty happy with that. As long as the tops of them are getting enough light, the stems on the bottom that I have wrapped on that piece of wood should do okay. You can see some of the shorter pieces are wrapping around the outside here. Those will lengthen and kind of come up around. I think that'll be a pretty nice effect. But, yeah, it's a pretty simple little thing that you can do to really fill in some of the gaps in a larger area. The stuff grows like absolute crazy. So I'm still going to have to trim this back quite a bit to keep this from just ending up completely in shadow. But I do feel like that's a lot less empty and weird. Anyways, we'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.